Well, hello everyone. Welcome to Team Talk tonight about love languages. Sounds so enticing, doesn't it? And I mean, what more could we ask for but Julie Mohajir to introduce this topic to us if you've never thought about it or heard about it or read about it. And I get emails about it. I don't know if you do, Julie. It's pretty phenomenal. If you take the time to really think about people's love language, it's going to get you a lot farther. And so we were talking about it within our Brave Leaders pod. We are accountability partners, Julie and I, with Kirsten Hood, such a wonderful trio team. And so Julie was excited to talk about this. So I am so glad she's sharing with you guys today. And we've known each other from South Florida, and then her progressing to national marketing director and just totally making a difference. And so you'll be able to see her at conference and wave hello, just like with Kirsten. And so I am happy to introduce you to her, and she can tell you the rest about her family. So go ahead, Julie.
Thank you, Sharon. And it's so fun to be with you guys. Please do come say hi at conference. I know I feel like I'm always stalking my South Florida friends when I see Sharon and Kirsten at conference. But I had the privilege of meeting both of them back when I moved to South Florida. It was around 2005 when we moved there. My husband's in college athletics, and so I knew that his career was going to take us around the country. So a little bit about what attracted me to Juice Plus was the flexibility that this business would offer us. His dream was to be a Division I athletics director, and we are now at that stage. When I met them, he was a senior associate AD at Florida Atlantic University in Boca Raton. So that's what brought us to South Florida. And today we live in Jonesboro, Arkansas. He's the athletic director at Arkansas State University. And we've been here now 5 years. But that flexibility that attracted me to the Juice Plus company has definitely proved to be even more than I ever thought it would be. I found Juice Plus, well, someone shared it with me 19 years ago. We started taking it 18 years ago. I was a little slow on the uptake of this information. I was a dancer my whole life, thought I knew a lot about my body, but was very humbled when I found myself as a newlywed, chronically sick with allergies and sinus infections, was on antibiotics at least 6 times a year. And although my sweet husband vowed to marry me in sickness and in health, he kind of was like, let's try the health side of this picture. So it was he that was more open to it than I was. The friend that I ignored for a year was over for dinner one night and started talking to Terry. And he was like, Julie, it's fruits and vegetables. Like, it can't hurt us. At the time we lived in Kansas City, I was working probably 65 hours a week at an ad agency. And he was working his crazy 7 days a week at the university in college athletics. And so we thought, okay, we'll give it a try. Well, today I'm 43, 18 years later, healthier than I've ever been. Thanks to Juice Plus, learning to fuel my body the right way, starting to count chemicals instead of calories, and of course our Shred 10 program. I'm today 2 sizes smaller than I was on a college dance team, and that's after 3 kids. My entire body composition changed over the last 18 years, and it's just been amazing. I went from being on antibiotics 6 times a year to maybe once a year, if ever. And I actually have an autoimmune condition. So it's not to say I never get sick. I still get very run down. My immune system is weak, but Juice Plus has made a huge difference in my health picture. I was kind of immediately, I was one of those 5%ers that really saw the picture of this business for my family. So that first month we started the product, I actually ended up joining the mission. Because of that flexibility, I knew Terry's job was going to take us around the country. We knew that with his career, it wasn't feasible for me to work really. I mean, one of us, when we had a family, would need to be able to be home with the kids. And so I'm very blessed that I was able to do this alongside supporting his career goals and raising our kids. So our kids now are 16, 14, and 10, 2 girls and a boy. And we live an incredibly busy lifestyle. I tell everyone, if you try to catch me between like November and January, I'm probably out of town. Seems like every winter, I'm traveling at least 10 times, usually, in a 12-week time span. I usually have at least 1 or 2 trips every month, whether it's for my husband's work. It's kind of a full-time job as the wife of an AD, or with the kids, or the little bit that I love to travel with Juice Plus. So it's amazing. I tell people all the time, there's no job in America that would afford someone the opportunity that I have had to truly live out my calling and passion, be totally present with my kids, and support my husband's career. So it's been amazing. The other thing, the really fun thing I have to share with you guys that's kind of been a new revelation in our business. I've always kind of teased my daughters that, they'll work with me when they turn 18. But our oldest has a dream to be on Broadway, and she wants to go to college and get her BFA in musical theater and then pursue Broadway. And I love how confidently she responds to people's skepticism about not being able to really live like that, because she plans to join me in 2 years when she turns 18 and build up her Juice Plus business while she's in school so that she can pursue her dream. And that has been an amazing blessing to see that what I've modeled for her has paid off like that, to cast her vision and to know that she can do what she loves. And a big part of, I think, the relationship that I do have amidst a very full life, I try not to say busy, I like to just say my life is very full, is what I learned years ago about the love languages. So I don't know how many of you guys have ever heard of the 5 love languages. You can raise your hands if you have or haven't. So this may not be new information. It's a really simple concept, but it's something then that it was like profound for me when I learned this. And it was actually 16 years ago. I learned about it through my own parents' divorce, actually, and in going to a counselor to just kind of work through some things. And she shared it with me because my one thing that I'm like, I want to be married and celebrate my 50th wedding anniversary and be so in love, and not be this crazy frazzled couple that they got so busy with life that everything they had fell apart. And then if you've never heard of the 5 love languages, it's a great book by Dr. Gary Chapman. He actually has the book for kids. And that has also been instrumental for me, especially as a working mom with a home-based business. This business is always around you. And if you love it as much as I love it, you could be doing it all the time because it never feels like work. So the principles of the 5 love languages has been really valuable for me in having meaningful relationships with both my spouse and my kids in effective moments. So for me, I kind of use the analogy, God comes first in my life. That's just my personal thing. But that doesn't mean God gets the most of my 24 hours in a day. In fact, he gets my stolen moments. He gets my morning and he gets stolen moments throughout the day. I remember my mother-in-law teaching me when I had newborns, like, you can always have a prayer upon your breath. And I think I always do. But with that, it's kind of the same. My family is the next most important thing in my life. But whether you work out of the home and maybe you work tons of hours, or like for me now, my kids are in school all day, they are not the people I get to spend the most time with. And so that same concept of they can be the most important to you, but you may not have the most time with them. The 5 love languages and kind of applying what these principles are has been really helpful in looking at my relationships with my family. And then you can extend it to any relationship in your life. I mean, it really applies to neighbors, colleagues, coworkers, anyone. Sorry, my phone, I'm gonna mute this. Okay. Anyways, so with that, I'm gonna share my screen. I think it should let me, because I wanted to pull up this website, and you guys can all jot it down. It is the number 5. I had it pulled up, sorry. But it's the numeral 5 lovelanguages.com. And so you can definitely visit this site. There's some great resources on here, but it's also, there's free assessments. I'm just going to scroll down just for visual purposes. You guys can look at these are the 5 love languages that Dr. Chapman teaches about, and it has to do with how we show love and how we receive love. His 5 love languages are words of affirmation, acts of service, gift giving, quality time, and physical touch. And I think the big aha moment for me was my first year of marriage, when I thought, oh my gosh, I am like leaving my husband little notes. And to me, I was like loving him out the yin yang, but it wasn't how he received love. And so they don't always feel it. The best advice I have for you in any relationship you're in is you do want to find out what their number 1 and 2 love language is and become an expert in that, if it's your spouse or your partner or your kids. When I translated a lot of this information to my kids, even before I got his book on the 5 love languages for children, I kept thinking about my own childhood and my brother and sister and I, and how fair and even my mom raised us all. It was like at Christmas, gifts were to the penny. Like everything was even Steven. And, you know, she loved us all in the same way. And we tend to love others the way we want to receive love. So we tend to be experts at our own love languages. But it was so interesting to think about family dynamics and how there's always a kid that doesn't feel as loved or feels left out. And I think a lot of times, if we look at it, that child probably has a different love language than the parents. And it's not that the parents love them less. It's that that child or that person in your life doesn't feel it. You know, it's not speaking their language. So when you break these down, and I do encourage you to take, it's like 10 or 15 minutes. So on this website, when you click learn your love language, you can answer for yourself or your child. So you can actually do these little surveys for your children too. If you click yourself, it asks, are you in a relationship or are you single? And so it will help you determine things. The surveys are different based on where you are in your stage of life right now. But it is really fascinating. And I do have to say that years ago, my number 1 love language was words of affirmation. But as I've rechecked it over the years and life has changed for me a little bit, it was interesting that quality time came up first when I responded to these questions for Terry and me, like for my spouse. But I think we've gotten so busy. When I first did this years ago, we were at such a different stage in our life. We weren't as pulled in so many different directions. So now, you know, and some of the questions will be like, you know, would you rather have your partner's undivided attention when he puts his phone down? And I'm like, yeah. You know, so it's interesting how different some of the different love languages are, and how you may change during different stages of your life too. So I encourage you, even if you have done this before, to kind of recheck and see where you stand today. And it is fascinating as you start to just become aware. I'm a big believer in awareness. I think it's like step number 1 to change is just being aware of what changes, you know, where you are and what changes you need to be and to grow through to become a better version of you. So this has just been so helpful. And when you shift it to your kids, I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing. You guys definitely use that website at any time as well. But when you think of, for those of you with children or just other relationships in your life, you know, it's interesting when you think, okay, I'm coming back from conference and I'm going to bring them each a little gift. If gifts aren't their love language, don't be disappointed when you hand out your gift if they seem totally underwhelmed by it. Like, oh, great. But they really want you to come, like, sit down with them. If quality time is their love language, they want you to, like, come sit down and hear about their last few days. A few of my kids, I mean, 2 of my kids, quality time is their number 1 love language. And I have to say, as a mom, it's one of the hardest things, I think, because time's so limited. And so, again, it doesn't have to be about massive amounts of time, but about just making that mindful connection every day. Or, you know, if when my kids were home more, you could do it several times throughout the day. So it was a matter of like, okay, filling their bucket. You maybe have all read that book or heard about that book about filling filling the buckets. You have to fill their buckets, and then you can go work, and then take a break and go fill their buckets again, speaking their language. And then you can go get the laundry done or do something else. So just kind of working that in. And just, I would start maybe with one relationship at a time in your life, and look at that again, survey your own. The really important thing too is you really want to learn to love in all 5 ways. And you want to expose, for those of you who are parents, you want to expose your children to all 5 love languages. Even if it isn't their natural love language, it's it's the healthiest thing for them to be exposed to all the love languages, and for just future relationships and things for them too, even if it's not their number 1 or 2. And encourage your kids. My children are old enough now, like we've done the survey together, and we laugh about the different things. My one daughter, that we thought for sure hers would be gift giving because she's all about gifts, but it actually came up quality time. But there's a lot of fun in doing it, but you can truly figure it out when they're little. But it's fun to kind of teach them these principles. I wish someone had talked to me. I think my first year of marriage would have been much smoother had I known about the love languages before. Because I kept thinking, wow, I mean, we have a great marriage, but why is there this disconnect? Well, it's because his love language was totally different than the language I was speaking. And then from a business standpoint, I think the biggest blessing I've gotten out of the 5 love languages for me is truly finding that life balance. That's something, that I've struggled with, and I'll touch on that again. But you can relate this to people on your team as well. If their love language is words of affirmation, again, as team leaders, we tend to have a system. And so maybe it's the same praise and recognition each month for different things, but maybe someone would love a handwritten note or going to do something with them. It's kind of that acts of service, or, the quality time. So you can also kind of figure it out. We have a team retreat coming up, and we've talked about doing these quizzes and stuff together and talking about how we can be better at giving and serving. And I think learning people's love language is a great way to do that too. But kind of back to the life balance thing, just to kind of wrap up, and we can open it up for questions too. That was a struggle for me. So I don't know where all of you are in your business, but I have to say I had learned these principles, but I don't think I had connected the dots on how it could help me not struggle with that mom guilt. And I wish I had thought of it years ago before, because it's something, and I know you guys have been exposed to our wonderful friend Julie Herbst, and when she was reading The One Thing and her call on that, many of you have probably heard that. And I think, in the One Thing book, it talks about counterbalance. Like, we never truly have life balance. It's always going to be a little bit off. When I met Sharon and Kirsten, had just hit QNMD when we moved to South Florida. And I may be the longest Q ever in the company. I don't know, but I was the Q for 8 years. So my journey to NMD was a 14-year journey. And I don't regret it. I lived a lot of life during that, and I totally own my story. What attracted me to this company was the flexibility, and it definitely met all of my family's needs in so many different ways. But I realized I was really holding myself back. I struggled so much with, okay, can I really be a great wife and mom and business owner? And had I applied these principles then and known, okay, it just can take a few minutes of connection and speaking their language, I think things would have gone so much better. Instead, my kids heard me talk for years living in South Florida, how this was the year I was going to hit NMD. This was the year. And we were picking out our songs and all this stuff. Well, fast forward years later, we're living in Kansas. We've actually lived in 6 different houses in the last 18 years. So flexibility, again, this business has allowed me to pick up and move and recreate and continue to build in amazing ways. But we were living in Kansas City, and I was doing a workshop for a Girl Scout troop. And I overheard one of the girls ask my oldest daughter, who at the time was 9, And she said, does your mom do Juice Plus? And I heard Maria say, yeah, she wants to be an NMD, but that's never going to happen. And I thought, oh my gosh, like my kids instantly went from being my excuse not to do this business to being my reason to do it. And now today I can share the story with you about my oldest who has seen me do this and change lives and model for her having and following your dreams. And this being a way to support it. She has seen how this income has supported our family during transitions with Terry's job, where we used to be apart for 5 months because we couldn't afford to move right away when he got a new job, to us moving the month he gets the job because we can afford 2 house payments. And she's seen me have a bigger calling and a passion and purpose in life that is such a blessing to share and model for your kids too. So I just think so often we use our kids, for those who are moms on here, kind of as this crutch and this reason, like, okay, we can't do more. Maybe it's not kids for you. Maybe it's your full-time job. Maybe it's a sick family member. And just own the flexibility that this company and this business opportunity can provide for you. Really own it and take it to heart, because doing more with your Juice Plus business doesn't have to be crazy hours of work. You could have 1 power hour a day. I mean, so we're talking 5 to 6 hours a week. If you're truly investing in that time, doing new activity, you can blow up this business with that consistent work. So don't let the mom guilt or work guilt or life guilt of any kind stop you. I just want to encourage you to be mindful in the relationships you're in, learn the love languages and how to make the most effective use of kind of that tool to have stronger relationships, that then you won't worry about those relationships as much as you're wanting to do more with this mission too. So does anyone have any questions?
Anybody want to raise their hand on here? Or just turn off your mic and or unmute. That was awesome. Awesome, Julie. We have time for 1, maybe 2. Anybody?
Julie, I have a question.
Go ahead, Beth. Go ahead.
I have a question. You mentioned you are having a retreat with your team. Tell me more about that. What does that look like? Is that tacked on to conference?
No, we've actually never done it, but my upline NMD and I, we typically always build for the Branson boot camp.
Okay. Years
ago when I lived in Kansas City, and then now that I'm back closer in the Midwest, we'd go to the Branson boot camp a lot. Mm-hmm. And we just are really feeling the need. The Branson boot camp, it's like we're having such FOMO at the thought of not going, but people had that weekend kind of marked off. But we're just at a stage in our business that we feel like we really want to have that time together as a team. And there is the Kansas City Summit. Corporate's doing a summit in Kansas City, so it's not the next month. So there's still awesome big stuff. Yeah. So we just are going to do one of our team members has a lake house, and she's been wanting everyone to get together. So we are actually going to offer Friday night open to prospects and friends and just have it be community. We're going to kind of do a book study of the Brene Brown stuff and talk about vision boards and stuff. So not anything Juice Plus specific, but then spend the night. And on Saturday, we're going to dive into just some different things as a team with vision and why and verbiage and, stuff like that. Because I'm not there. I'm not local there. So we're doing that. So
great.
Yep.
That would be nice.
And I think it's really from Brave Leaders. It's really my upline NMD also is going through Brave Leaders now for the first time as well, like what Sharon and what we've just finished. And I think we just really have a heart set of wanting to encourage everyone on our team, as I know Sharon and Kirsten, it's like we've always felt like we did, but just really adding value to people's life. I think that's one thing. Again, it's relationships, but just adding value to people's life, regardless of what your goals are with Juice Plus. We say it and we mean it as leaders. You are a blessing, whether you do a little or a lot, but really having people feel that and taking time for people to realize we mean what we're saying when we say that. So yeah.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Anybody else?
It's not a very complicated concept. I know once you hear it, it's like, well, duh. And that's how I felt when I first learned about it. It's like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. But it was such an aha for me, and then fun to translate to other relationships too. So.
I have another question, Julie, if you have time. So how do you find out what some of the love languages are of your customers how do you find that out?
You'd really have to have a close relationship with them, I think,
okay.
to be able to determine that. I mean, one thing, it's fun to bring up this topic of love languages. Like that could be something that you bring up as just an added value. Like that's something valuable I found for me in my marriage or whatever relationship you want. I mean, that's just a tool you could share in conversation with customers too, that then they may go and you could ask, you could be like, I'd love to hear what did you find out for you or your spouse or what, so you could find out that way, but it would be hard to determine that for extended relationships, really. So
I think if you could have a customer appreciation where you do that, you could put that as one of the things that you're going to do. That'd be pretty cool.
That would be fun. That would be fun. And it's easy to pull up on your phone and answer. I mean, you could have everyone in the room do something like that. Yes. But, and no offense to anyone, but I know some customers aren't looking for that. Like they're not looking for us to fulfill some of those, relationships too that, but it is some of the things like gifts or words of affirmation, some of that stuff is easy to do from customer care standpoint. Someone on a shred, would they want you telling them, great job, I'm so proud, or would they love a little gift at the end of the shred? Yeah. So.
Okay. Julie, I'm worried about you getting on your call.
I know, but you guys are too fun. Okay, I'm going to hop off. Feel free to Vox me or email me. Sharon can get us connected. And it's fun to see all your smiles. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Julie.
Bye.
Bye. Wonderful. And I just wanted to tell you guys a for instance, and I don't know if you guys have any for instances or if you've done this with your family. I did have my kids take that test. It's pretty cool. And I think I've forgotten some of them. I know some of their love languages. Like one of them, if you bring a plate of food, that is the love language, So anyway, but I was offering help to one of my friends, over and over. And my love language is acts of service. And it finally dawned on me, because they never take me up on these offers of help. I'm thinking, okay, that's not that person's love language, And I thought, okay, what is that person's love language? Is it, words of affirmation? Is it physical touch? Is it gifts? And I thought, oh, that person doesn't really like gifts even, So I was like kind of going through that, and I thought, oh no, this person, I think the words of affirmation, and sure enough, that was where that person responded. So sometimes you kind of can figure it out, from trying. And so anyway, it's just kind of fun. And I like the idea of Betsy of, maybe trying to figure out our customers' love language, but also our team, it's nice. And we could always take those little tests and let each other know our love language. And that's just fun. But I think definitely for the families. Does anybody have any other examples they want to share? Maybe you've done this with your family. Janie? I saw you, Janie Mims.
I did this a long time ago, Sharon, and I loved it. And I did it with my family, for my kids and my sister. And it's just so funny how you think your kids are the same. They're all different. even though they're all different, but they're all different with the love languages. It's so interesting. But I really have not taken it to the next step with my business. And I really want to, because I naturally, like she said, we naturally love people in the way that we want to get loved. Or like, I just know that one of the things that are important to me are words of affirmation. And I do a lot of words of affirmation, but you know what? I don't take that time sometimes. That quality time is probably the hardest for me to give. And I know that there's lots of people on my team that love quality time. And I want to be able to give that, because that's going to, make that connection stronger, and so I think it's so important. Like gifts are like totally, I'm like horrible with gifts. I don't know about you guys, but that's like way out of my comfort, and I don't, it doesn't really matter. But some people love that. And I realize my son loves gifts. I mean, what's up with that? Guys like gifts. That was so weird, but it's really important to him. And he really takes time to give the right gift. And he spends a ton of time figuring it all out. And he's so thoughtful. And it's so important for us, I think, to at least work on each area, because it's going to make us stronger. It's going to make us a better connector, because it's easy to just do that fallback and do our own. But to really work on all of those and to recognize those in our team is going to be so helpful, I think, for us.
I think so.
Just a good exercise.
All right. Well, I think we could call it a night. I'm sure all of us are making plans for conference. If not this one, then plan on Tampa. We've got to always remember that. Start making plans for Tampa if you're not going to be in Phoenix. And we'll see you next time.
Thank you, Sharon.
Thanks, Sharon.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.